Hey, Pat.
Hey, Chris. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'd like to start off today discussion with a little quote from Martin Laird, who's one of my favorite authors, Into the Silent Land.
Nice.
A
Okay.
very important book in my growth, my spiritual growth. He says that the contemplative practice is not a technique, but a surrendering of deeply embedded resistances that allows the sacred within gradually to reveal itself as a simple fundamental fact. Out of this letting go, there emerges what St. Paul called the hidden self. And every page of this book is filled with just wonderful ideas and insights. He's a professor of at Villanova, and a wonderful man.
Yes, I've heard his name, and I think I've read quotes of his because they're used widely.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, how's your hidden self doing today?
Well, my hidden self is we had a sermon at church yesterday that was very moving to me, and I'm trying to figure out what was moving about it. And of course, my mother was very much in her head. And she used to say, well, if you can't remember the sermon, then it wasn't any good. And I'm thinking to myself as a, like 18-year-old or 17-year-old, no, it's the opposite. If you can figure it out, what good is it? It's the stuff that it hits you at a non-cerebral level,
Right.
that is so life-changing.
Right.
So anyway, the sermon at church yesterday, our friend Catherine gave it, and
Oh,
she's she always disturbs my assumptions, which is why I love her so much.
hmm.
Um, so I thought how interesting it was that I had a true moment of uh, transcendence, I guess,
Hmm.
sitting in a pew at church. Who'da thunk?
Tell me more about that.
Well, I think a lot of it is just the way she thinks, and I coupled with her brilliant mind and her um, loving heart. Um, she described what she called a soft eye gaze, which I've heard many times mentioned in the field of meditation.
Hmm.
But she kind of took us through it in a different way than I had thought about it. In terms of being aware of, um, instead of focused on one thing, to be just basically aware of everything around you,
Widening the lens.
widening the lens. Yeah. So it was so amazing that my experience of this was that I found myself disappearing in church, which is not something that happens a lot. And when I came to, I thought, oh my gosh, I just disappeared in church. So that's, kind of a special thing. I mean,
Totally.
as you know, I stick with church, contrary to many of my inner dialogue. I stick with it. I find that if I if I invest myself in being open-hearted during worship, I always get something that I didn't have before. I always
Right.
get it.
Right.
So, and I love being with this group of people. It's a lovely church. Anyway, uh, the hidden self. The hidden self wants to hide in me. It wants to be. It wants to disappear. It wants to be hidden.
Yeah.
And yet it's the part of me that nobody else has ever had and nobody else will have.
Right. Right. And I'm wondering if when you refer to the hidden self, that another word that might be used is the spirit or the soul or our essence. I'd like to talk more about that for sure, but I just want to revisit what you shared a minute ago about the soft gaze, and that Catherine, gave some way of doing this. And I'm wondering, I'm saying something, but I'm asking you a question at the same time. So I recall as a younger kid, and I don't know exactly the age, but I'm going to guess around anything under the age of maybe 12, maybe a little bit more, but around 12 and younger, having that soft gaze thing happen automatically all the time. Like, just be sitting someplace and, maybe in school for sure. But even around the house, or even, lying in bed or with eyes open, and just, beginning to think of something. And I'm going to say it was always something that it was like almost like a memory I was bringing back to myself, something I'd say pleasant. I don't remember this happening with unpleasant things, although it may have. And getting that thing come over, this foggish blurring out of the surroundings, but not totally. And then in that place, almost in a twilight place, suddenly recognizing suddenly recognizing I'm in this twilight space, and then bringing my vision back into focus, and the thing that I was thinking about would be in front of me. Like I can't explain it. It's a strange thing. So it's almost like the vision would go out, and then it would come back in, because it could sense that I was becoming more conscious, and then it would bring me to a thought of the bookcase, and the bookcase would be in front of me. But that wouldn't have been what was going on prior to that. It's hard to explain. It's almost like
Gotcha.
leaving. Yeah. So I just share that with you because I did it a lot as a kid. And also when I did it and came back from it, they were probably short periods of time, I always felt better.
Well, that makes sense to me. I mean, I now that you bring it up, I remember experiences that sound like your experience when I was a kid as well.
Mm.
I guess kids have more access to what?
To nothingness.
Yeah.
For a word.
Well, also, I mean, the daydreaming thing has always been very important to me because
Yeah.
um as an adult, I've wanted to recover the daydreaming that I used to do when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I think that the stuff that happens when we daydream really has a lot to do with our hidden self, our essential self.
Yes.
You
I
know,
agree.
what do you daydream about? When you're relaxed and safe and you kind of drift off in your, not to sleep, but just your thinking drifts off. And you don't have fear in you, you don't have anxiety. You're just comfortable, safe. And where does that take you? So I think there's critical data in that experience for um, where your life needs to go, or what you need to invest in.
Or maybe even recall,
Mm.
you know. Yeah,
When you say recall, what's that about?
yeah, I was just going to try to just like it seems to me, still referring to those experiences I'm talking about when I was younger, that there was something when I sort of had that haziness come, that it was sort of like a retreat
Mm.
back into well, you used the word safe. It definitely feels like it was safe, but it also was warm and loving, like it was a sense that I'm gonna go away for a minute. This is what I'm saying. I didn't think this. I'm gonna go away for a minute. I think it's okay that I will do this, and boom, boom, boom. It was almost like a nap with eyes open, but very, I don't even know the length. It's hard to say what the length is. I mean, maybe it could have been several minutes, or maybe it could have been several seconds. But there was sense that I was rejoining something that felt, I can't say loving, but that could have been there. Yeah, I'll tell you what, though, I wish I could still do that, and I don't do it anymore. I mean, I could work at doing it, like you were talking about at church the other day. But this felt very automatic, not a great word, but very natural to do. And into my remembrance, it never got me in any kind of trouble at all. Like,
Yeah.
if I did it in school, which I may have, it was almost like going to get my battery charged. If I had to, kind of like, this is all getting to be too much. I have to go get my battery charged. I mean, I didn't think that, but it was like a drifting away from this particular reality that we find ourselves into, sort of an alternate place. And it was quiet, it was safe, and it was comforting. Yeah.
And you probably, as a kid, probably didn't evaluate it.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Right. Therefore, it could keep happening.
And now as an adult, we both probably would like to have that happen again,
Right.
but it's maybe a little bit less accessible.
Totally, because again, flashing back, it wasn't something I decided I was going to do. It just came.
Right.
Now, as I think about this a tiny bit more, and this could be total hogwash, but I'm thinking it might be true, that we come equipped with this.
do.
We come equipped into our lives with this ability to, for lack of a better term, check out, kind of, it's too much. I'm checking out. I'm overwhelmed. Here I go. You don't say it out loud, but you allow this gift of going away from the present moment, which, in my case, it wasn't an easy life, but my point was this: maybe we actually come equipped with this ability, and we lose it in whatever culture we're brought up in. Now, if it's a culture that, like maybe the indigenous cultures, they promote that stuff, go to the happy hunting grounds or whatever they might call it. I'm sure that's not what they call it, but go time for self,
Yeah.
and they keep cultivating it and growing it and being, turning it into a practice, a meditative almost practice. And in our culture, it's like, no, we need you front and center right now, sister. Eyes front.
No
Don't
to the
talk to your neighbor.
grindstone.
No, it's to the grindstone. That's right. And so we are, it doesn't go away, obviously, because you can't take it away. I think it's in us, but it does get dulled down and probably quieted quite a bit. And I think that's what he's referring to. Laird is referring to here.
So
Yeah.
you said check out, and I'm wondering if we're really checking in.
Yeah, true. I meant, I'm using this world,
Yes.
the world that just got us by the whatever, our hands and legs. Yeah, it is a checking in. That's true.
But
Or
we
checking away.
we were trained that it was a negative, because, or at least I was, because
Yep,
I would do it a lot of it in school.
sure.
I mean, I was safe, I was secure, and the math was boring me to tears.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I would check out. In high school, what I remember doing was designing clothes. I've always been, I had a long period of I would make my own clothes. I would design my own clothes, and I would think of those things when I was in math class. But as a kid, like, the age that you're describing, maybe the under 12, um, I don't know. I don't know where I went, but it was really, really lovely. And it was peaceful, and it was sort of custom made for me.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah,
really a delight and a privilege to be there.
yes, yes. And there was no loneliness there. That's another thing. Like, in my day-to-day living as a child, I mean, I remember feeling lonely a lot. And in this place that we're referring to here, there was no sense of loneliness. However, there was no one else there. I mean, visibly, just me. So maybe the me that I maybe disassociated from a bit, or didn't recognize as having any importance when I was in that place, I was the star. And that's just a phrase. Wasn't the star, but I was not under the gun like I normally felt, to perform or do or be a certain way, or march lockstep, with the rest of the kids at school and stuff. And yeah, there was a freedom there to be me. Yeah, I really wonder if we come equipped with that, and we, the true self, or whatever the phrase was that Laird used. And boy, it just, gee, it would really be nice to just be our true selves, and not be so concerned about, how, well, will so-and-so understand, or is it okay to be your true self? I mean, if I'm my true self, I'm going to be saying a lot of contrary stuff. That might not be great. But then
Mm.
we find each other somehow, and we find people that want to hear what we're saying. So it's almost like returning to that a bit, Chris, our work together and
Mm.
our talks, it's sort of returning to that permission to be yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm so grateful to you for bringing this subject up this morning. It hadn't occurred to me to go there. But but remembering that experience as a kid was really a gift. Because that was a trip to the hidden self, as he
Yeah.
call it,
The hidden self.
emerging into the hidden self.
Yeah.
And there's the information that I have gotten from those uninhibited moments of in quietness. It really has been a huge part of my finding out who I am,
Yeah.
and who I am in a sacred sense.
Yes. Yes.
And because I think that there's my perception of what was happening during those moments as a kid, is that the beloved was dancing with me, kind of, or we were holding hands walking through the field, or and I did a lot of those times happened in nature. I mean, my head would be in nature.
Mm, mm,
um
mm, mm.
and a lot of meadows, a lot of pastures,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
the wildflowers, and of course, if a horse was there, it was 5 million times better. uh,
Absolutely.
um
Absolutely.
yeah, and the wind, the quiet wind, the breeze, and of
Beautiful.
course, and then I'd wake up in suburbia, you know.
Yeah, that's where I live too.
Yeah,
Good old
well,
suburbia.
most of us did.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
The cookie cutter culture.
yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking the other thing that came to me when you were sharing what it was like for you to go off to that land, um, the land of Chris, and that the other message that always seemed there, maybe not not a verbal thing that I heard, but yeah, a definite, oh, you're okay, kid. You're okay.
Well, not for me.
Mm.
It was never a question when I was in those
Yeah, it was no
frames.
question, but it just kept
Yeah.
flowing, this sense of you are okay here. You're
Yes.
okay here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
safe,
And
you're okay.
you're good.
You can be anything, you can think about anything, you can go anywhere. Yeah.
You're my child,
Mm-hmm.
and I approve.
Right. It was a very, very intensely spiritual um respite that I mean, I had no words for that. I had no intellectual understanding of it, but it was
Yeah.
a very, very poignant and powerful experience. And I mean, I slept right back into that at church yesterday for that
Nice.
that soft eye gaze. And she said something like, and as I said before, instead of concentrating on one thing, the whole everything around you
Yeah.
becomes available. The light that's coming in from the window,
Yeah.
the air, the 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 tall windows, you can see the leaves blowing, but not concentrating on any of it, just awareness of it.
Right. Right. Building awareness.
Which we really could do, almost anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Staying aware is not possible in a head like mine when it gets on the the assembly line of fear or anxiety. I mean, I get things I got to do. This is a busy assembly line. I got to be moving things around, and I mean, I can't.
Can't take your eye off the ball.
It's just, I mean, and I'm sitting here now with you, and I feel aware because I'm here with you, and we're together, and we're talking with one another as though it matters, because it does. And so now here I am. Now when we end this exchange, then I'll be back on the assembly line. Good thing, the positive is that I have way more awareness of doing that now. And so I have a chance to pull myself back, take some breaths, and sort of be, what is it that I'm trying to avoid? What is it I don't want to think about or work on that really could use some of my attention?
So what would an example of that be that you can think of?
Well, right off the top of my head, self-care is, just it's a hit or miss thing. I have a lot of awareness about it, but I do not have, I lack discipline around, taking really good care of my body, my heart, and my emotions, which segue back, I think that phasing away and that gazing off is one of the ways that it's done. So of course, meditation is, it's just another word for this, perhaps. Although I think the gazing away thing is more, for me, more has more substance. And I don't create the substance. It just seems in recollection that it was almost a tangible thing to go away, and with meditation, I feel a bit of a well, yeah, I mean, it one is a the gazing away that I'm recalling from childhood was a gift that I accepted, that came, that I accepted. I was ready at a moment's notice. That's what I'm saying. Now with meditation, it's more like, oh boy, here we go. Okay, let me see if I can quiet down this dang monkey mind. And of course, as soon as it's try to train the monkey mind, it says, no, you're not going to train me. Nope. And so it's not like the gazing away thing, which seems to just be like a letting go with something saying, yep, right this way, folks, over here. It seems there's an ease to it that I don't find in meditation.
That's a really good point. A really good point. And I think that's one of the things that keeps people from meditating is this have to and shouldn't. I have to empty out my mind. I shouldn't have these thoughts. And it turns into a fight.
Absolutely. Just
20
say
minutes of fight.
totally. Say shouldn't to me, and I was doing that. Okay. Don't even say shouldn't, because when you say shouldn't,
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there is that guy, I think I mentioned to you, I'll send him again, who is a fellow from India who stays on the camera with eyes closed. It's a 20-minute offering. And he's actually doing a little bit of what we're saying, or maybe a lot of what we're saying. He recognizes people's resistance to meditation. And so he says things like, he's got his eyes closed, he's got a wonderful, soothing voice. So today I'm brushing away all of the extraneous ancestral cobwebs. And as I brush them away, they're turning into stardust. It's like, yeah, tell me some more. So as he's doing that, though, and he's very earnest about it, and he's in a meditative state, you can tell it, and it's lovely. That seems to work for me, because it's almost like, reckoning back again to the gazing out, gazing inward. There's a pull to it that I don't resist, because I want to think of my cobwebbed ancestors' stuff being swept away like stardust. I'll take that, thank you. So quiet, steady sitting, eyes closed, in my own psyche, head, trying to go into my heart is well, tedious would be one word to say, and not very fulfilling. And so, but people will say, whether you feel it's fulfilling or not, you are quieting the mind, even if it's a few seconds here and a few seconds there, which is true. Guess I'm just what's the word? Grasping, and that grasping.
I can relate to the grasping a lot. Eckhart Tolle calls it the gap of no mind, which really implies that there's a gap, not a huge space, but a gap.
Right.
I think of a sidewalk gap.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen a lot.
Yeah.
But so my meditation has changed so many times over the last, I think I've been meditating since the mid-90s. And I remember there was a phase when I went after my thoughts with a 2x4. Get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. Literally. And of course, did
that work? I just said, I have to know, did that work?
It was actually the opposite work. So somebody said to me once, the more you resist, the stronger they get.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm at the point where, like a friend said to me a couple of years ago, she said, I don't meditate, I sit quietly for 20 minutes. So, which is really what I do. I mean, my mind drifts constantly. I don't have any shoulds. I won't say I don't have any shoulds in my meditation. I do have some shoulds, but I have so fewer shoulds now than I did before, and it's very, very liberating.
Sure.
Very freeing.
The more shoulds we can get rid of, the better off we are.
Yes. The shoulds counterproductive, I mean, if you're learning how to, learning a new skill, or, learning gymnastics or something like that, the shoulds maybe are okay, or swimming, but in meditation, I don't know.
Yeah.
But but I
Yeah.
think after, over 20 or more years, it's enlightening to me to know how much my meditation has changed, how many times it's changed, and how many iterations I've been through of what what I experience and what I think it should be like and all this stuff. But I think the thing that's most valuable to me, one of the things that's most valuable to me about meditation is that I, quiet is no longer scary to me.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm in a conversation with people or in a group,
Mhm.
when I was in my 30s, I thought I had to fill the space with talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I at that point I was a pretty outgoing person anyway, so there was a lot of talking going on. But now, if I think about silly things or stupid things, or I'm evaluating them, but sometimes they are silly and stupid. Um, I mean, like, what should I wear to the thing tonight? That's, I don't want that to be in my meditation.
Right. Right.
But it is.
Yeah. 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 It's funny you're talking about how I think what I'm hearing you say is that sometimes you might be in a group of people and there's a lot of talking, a lot of I call chitter chatter or whatever, and you decide to just listen to what your inner self is saying, and it's saying something like, well, I'm not that interested in getting engaged in this. And then, and then perhaps you decide not to. It's really interesting in this culture, particularly if we flash back to suburban culture. You would be suspect if you got too silent. I mean, it's just the way it is. And so we're lucky that we live here in basically rural Maine, and that's less of a problem to not chitter chatter. And in fact, because of our age and we've gotten older now, we do less of those kinds of things that call for that kind of stuff. And lastly, and most importantly, I think, at least from my experience, is I've drifted away from all of those kinds of places and people, not to bemoan that, there's something wrong with them or anything like that. It's just I'm in a very different place and find to be put in a group of people who are chitter chattering. I find it uncomfortable, and I could use the old critique and say, well, yeah, you should feel uncomfortable because why aren't you talking and why don't you agree with these things? And of course, I don't critique that way anymore. I say, it's just not my bag, man. I don't want to do that. And it's okay. But it's lonely. So as a downside of, these things, you can be lonely because I'm not willing to play that particular, I don't want to call it a game. I just am not curious about we've covered the surface of the thing so much now. Let's go a little deeper. Could we please? Oh, so
I think for me, the noise bothers me too.
yes, because the voices rise. Because I got to talk a little louder than you, so I'll get the attention. And it's just a cultural norm to you know, be the top dog. I mean, not for everybody, but for many people, to know the most, you know, yada yada, meanwhile, if you attempt to get closer to someone and that's not where I mean, they're offended probably by, you know, yeah, okay, I can give you a great example. Quick example. Went to this house that a friend sold to some people, and it was a younger couple with a child, and child was about 9, I say 8 or 9, and she was very precocious, very talkative. To me, very stressed out. That's what I picked up on the child. The father of the child was a state police officer, and had the state police officer, this sounds very judgmental, but he was very well built up. If his posture was any better, he could become a mannequin, I swear to you. You know, he was just really caught up in his position. And then the wife was very nervous also, and chattery to a point that it was, I was beside myself. But anyway, we went in the house to look at what they were working on in the house, and she was explaining this and that, and the child was looking for attention, which I was trying to give her. Anyway, it got to a point, I was only in the house for about 3 minutes, maybe a little bit more, and I literally just slowly turned and just exited, stage left. I mean, I was like, I really couldn't do it. And here's the difference between me now and back in the day. I would have stayed and really been uncomfortable for whatever time, because when I left, then that sort of shortened things up. But if I had stayed there, this was going to be a 20-minute to a half an hour thing of explaining a million things that I'm not really interested in. And if it's a friend and it's somebody I have connections with who needs to, you know, speak about something, that I'm going to put myself on the line for that. But this was somebody who needed a lot of attention. I get it. And so I left. And when I left, I hear from my friend who sold that house that they felt I wasn't thoughtful of them. And you know, I get it though. I get it. I know, right? That's what I said. But you know, that's okay. I mean, I understood where they were coming from, but I didn't agree with them. You know, if they didn't want to listen, they could have said, we got to get going, or blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, the point I'm telling this whole long story for, excuse me, is the difference that one can have as they age in this culture. You know, what's the one, the woman now wear purple, or you just start saying, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore. And that's where I'm at now. I'm not proud of that. I'm just saying I finally recognized that I do not have to stay in these moors that are so deeply ingrained. And I think being older, of course, you know, is the exit. You know, you can say, I'm old now, I'm not doing that anymore. But boy, wouldn't it be cool if people who really didn't, and I know there's a lot of people that prefer not to do those things, but they continue to do them because they think they have to do them. Do they have to? Do they? You know, I wonder if all of that is part of the mess, this cultural mindset that in order for me to be liked or accepted or all the rest of those things, maybe this doesn't even have a lot to do with what we're talking about. Do we have to do those things to be okay?
Well, I think people, as you said before, I think people are suspect if they don't participate.
Yeah.
Um,
Might not get the raise at work. They might not get they might not get the things that,
or there's a, maybe they're being judgmental. Who knows? I mean,
yeah,
people read into other people's actions,
big time.
and usually it's because it's, if I'm reading into somebody's actions, it's because of my own agenda.
Yeah.
It's not big, probably doesn't relate very much at all to them, but
Yes. That's a big thing I'd like to talk about another time, because I think that's also one of the cultural messes we're in, that we don't actually talk about what we're feeling or thinking. Getting some straight talk with somebody else, finding out really where they are, can then be helpful to them and to us. So we have all these ideas that we just float around in our own head and make assumptions about something we don't really even know.
yeah, so yeah, the assumptions are, somebody once tell me assumption means ass of me, making an
Yeah,
ass of me,
yeah,
assumi.
yes, yes. An assumption is making an ass out of you and me, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, you and
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
think so, and I think hidden in there is the sort of prohibition about being real,
Yeah, and really connected.
right, and really connecting. So, I might be talking about small talk, um, which I did at one point in my life a lot, and I do less of it now. Um, and in the meantime, it's really code for, I want to connect with you. I want to be real with you. Um,
But I'm
and
afraid.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and I'm afraid.
Right. I'm afraid of
So
being rejected. I'm afraid of,
mhm.
um, maybe you don't want to be connected to me. I want to be
uh,
connected to you, but you don't want to be connected to me.
yeah, and that I'm not enough, something you mentioned earlier. I'm not enough. I don't have enough. And if we keep things on a superficial surface, a material commodified surface, there are many of us that couldn't meet with others. But if we meet with hearts in our struggles and our grief, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we're all got it in common,
Right.
but we don't
And
go there.
and where do you think our connection with God comes into this?
Well, certainly in the part where we're able to express our pain,
Hmm.
um, certainly joy too. I don't think we have as much trouble sharing joys as we do pain. I think God is in the middle of, well, let me put it this way. God's in the middle of it all. Okay. He doesn't, God, he, she, it. God does not say, oh, this looks interesting. I'll go over to this conversation and be in this one. God is always there. In that fear place of, hey, what's new with you anyway? I heard you went to Bossa Nova, huh? Hey, I understood your mother died. I'm sorry to hear that. Want to talk about it? So both.
Hmm.
At the Bossa Nova one, God's like, yeah, I'll do the Bossa Nova. What the heck? I don't know. Yeah, I think God's in everything. So I don't think there's any separation.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's the culture breeds an idea that either God does not exist, or God is um separated from us intentionally,
Mhm.
or mean, there's nothing that I've picked up on in the culture that says, um, God is in every moment. God is connected to every thought we have. God is, madly in love with us. Um, God wants only good things for us. Sort of the same way we would look at a newborn kitten or puppy or a baby, that kind of altruism, on unmasked love, um, delight and joy.
Yeah. There's a Latin saying, which I don't know the Latin, but it goes something like this, that sought or not sought, God is present. That's
Mm,
just, and
mm,
I've always liked that. And you can put it, it's been said that you put it at the entrance of your doorway. And I don't know who said it. And again, I think it's a Latin phrase, but I love that because it's saying you don't get to choose where God is. It is present, period.
always, always, always there.
Always.
And um my experience is that there's almost no judgment.
Correct.
I'll go ahead and say there's no judgment.
There's no judgment. And then I'll go out in front of that and say, it's love, plain and simple.
Yeah, there's open arms and and
Yes.
a protective and receptive
Yeah,
um welcome
I like that.
and embraced.
Receptive and protective. I like that.
Mm.
It's very good.
So this is the gospel according to Chris and Pat.
Yeah, they just found it in a cave over in
Or maybe they dug a little deeper in the Dead Sea.
no, Chris, it was in an old box, an empty box of Charleston chews.
Oh my goodness. Leave it to Pat to get a poignant, culturally significant humor in there.
Oh my God. Humor too. I mean, what a gift humor is, huh?
Oh yeah.
Not sure if that didn't exist, that we didn't know what something when something was funny. I mean, that's really terrific.
Yeah, I mean humor cuts right through the BS and releases the endorphins just like that, you know?
Yeah, it does.
I
Yeah, it
mean,
does. Yeah. Yeah, I
it-
remember that book, Love Something in Miracles, Love Medicine and Miracles, I think it was by Bernie Siegel back in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, they did the research that, cancer patients allowed to watch, the Three Stooges or whatever, or some funny stuff, and their all of their labs would come back better.
yes,
They laugh. So there's something there. There's something there. The design is perfect. Design.
it is. It is.
Perfect.
Yeah, my
Well,
husband and I watched this show about these four guys who grew up together and they compete to embarrass one another. And
I
it's
know I know them. I
you
know
do.
them.
I mean, I literally double over with laughter
Yeah. What
every
is the
time.
name of that again? I gotta look them up again. Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
I don't, but I'll bring
Yeah,
it
if
to
you find it, send it to me. I was watching it on.
next Holy Compost discussion.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So just so people know, Holy Compost is, you bring the worst of you, the stinky, smelly, failing, nobody wants it, refuse, and you bring it, and then it sits and does its thing, and 6 months to a
Practice.
year later, it's like the soil is
Rich.
miraculous, right?
Yes.
For
Transformed.
transformed and growing nutrient dense food for us to heal and live and thrive.
Absolutely.
And this is what the spiritual life delivers.
Yes, it does.
So on that wonderful note, it's been real, Pat.
It's been real, Chris.
And it's always a real delight to talk to
Thank
you.
you. I feel the same.
So
Okay.
until our next Holy Compost,
Yes. Over and out.
over and out. Stop recording.